We are here with Bill Miller, who is the CEO of the American Gaming Association, which is both the industry's leading advocacy group and the host of G2E. So welcome to your event, Bill.
Well, I say welcome back. Look, it's great to be here. G2E is an incredible opportunity for us. Everybody in the industry gathers, and there are a number of other trade shows around the world and in other places in the U.S., but this is the global hub for the gaming industry. It's where we get a chance to see what's new and innovative, what is the next iteration of the industry, and this show, promises to be the same. We have a great both attendance in terms of number of people that are going to come, as well as over 400 exhibitors, and really excited about the next 4 days here in Las Vegas.
Okay, great. You've been CEO of the AGA for several years now.
Almost 6.
How has the industry evolved in that time, and where do you see it today as you enter the future?
It's a great question, and it's one that every time you do G2E, it gives you this moment to reflect on how's the year coming. Clearly, there've been other moments where you had to reflect too. I mean, certainly during COVID was one of those challenging points in the, how do we keep the industry going? How do we keep the industry alive? But everybody else in the world had that same problem. I look at G2E as one of those moments where you get to reflect on where are we as an industry. And what I would say is where we are as an industry is we've never been more strong as an industry. We've now had 41 straight months of growth as an industry. We are year on year in the commercial gaming space up 7.2%. So even though many people said, well, post-COVID there's going to be this mad sugar high where people hadn't been out of their houses, they're going to come out of their houses, they're going to live life in a more robust way. And that certainly happened, but what we've seen is that as we've continued to open new markets, we've continued to open new verticals, whether it be sports betting, which really began right when I started in this job, and we've seen it now grow to 39 states and DC. And so the growth of the industry, the continuing change of the industry, importantly, the way the public views our industry, they've all gotten more positive. And I think that's something that I look at when I come to G2E. How are we seen as an industry? And those metrics are really good.
You mentioned the growth, and a lot of the growth is on the digital side. How do you see the health of the brick and mortar side, which is, I guess, what the public identifies with when they think of the gaming industry?
Well, I think that one thing about our industry is it is regulated, it's licensed, and it really exists on a state-by-state basis. And so you really have a different mix within all different states in terms of brick and mortar, sports betting, iGaming, as you referenced. And I think that it's really important for those collective stakeholders to figure out what the right mix is for them. And so, yes, has iGaming been a big driver of growth? Of course it has. But we've seen growth across all of the verticals over the last few years since COVID. And I think that many of the operators who recognized during COVID that the only way for them to stay afloat was to utilize their digital properties have figured out a way to create what we kind of call an omni-channel experience, i.e. looking at where's the customer, how does the customer want to engage with our product, whether it be in person or on their mobile device. And we want to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge as it relates to how the consumer wants to interface with us.
The cutting edge brings up the buzzword of the year, and that's artificial intelligence. How do you see artificial intelligence being applied in gaming, and are there risks in terms of like responsible gaming in artificial intelligence?
Well, I think that we're all trying to figure out the best utilization of artificial intelligence. But what I can absolutely say is that artificial intelligence can be used to help spot problems and or behaviors that are worrisome, and that our operators who are not only licensed, but have kind of a moral responsibility and a moral license to ensure that that players are having fun with our products. And so I think that there is great opportunity to use this in a manner that, number one, allows the players to better understand the games and the operators to better understand the customers, but also make sure that we are baking that responsibility into AI. Now, that said, we're still in the very, very early days. Everyone is trying to figure out, what does AI mean for their business? What does it mean for their company? What does it mean for their job? And I think that all of us are trying to think about, well, is ChatGPT or AI going to replace an interview or a lawyer or any number of people in any number of industries? The one thing I can say, though, is we're an industry now with 1.8 million people that work in our industry. We're a $300 billion industry. The people make the industry, and I think that will be the case for a long, long time.
Yeah, I always say having fun will never go out of fashion.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Do you see risks involved in, I'll call it supercomputing as opposed to artificial intelligence? Because this has really been an evolution. We've had artificial intelligence in a sense. It's just become a buzzword that now we use for everything today. But do you see risks in it, to responsible gaming?
I think there's risks in every technological advancement, but there's also great opportunity. And I think that the opportunity far outweighs the risk because, look, people in the illegal market have access to the technology too, right? And so what we need to do is we need to be constantly vigilant about making sure that the technology that we're using to interface with our customers is done in a way that keeps our customers in that legal regulated marketplace and has those consumer protections. Because if we don't do that, then we risk losing those customers to the illegal market where there are no consumer protections, and quite frankly, they will be using those advancements in technology for their own pernicious purposes.
What are some of the one or two of the big issues on AGA's agenda today?
I think it's continuing to advance our good work in the responsible gaming space. I think that we just completed a very successful Responsible Gaming Education Month. Gives us an opportunity to really highlight and focus on the great work that our members are doing and the industry is doing to showcase that responsibility. And then I think the other part is making sure that we're making policymakers, politicians, media influentials understand what the industry is and what the industry isn't. And I think that part of that is giving them a better education with regard to the illegal market, the health of the illegal market, and the difference between the illegal market. Because we've seen so much in recent news, particularly in the sports betting space, about individuals who have Shohei Ohtani's translator and all of this. And what that did, that was exhibit A for the fact that the illegal market is still incredibly robust and healthy. And then there are other situations with whether it be athletes at the professional or college level, or staff, coaches that have paid a penalty, paid a price for violating team, league, conference policies. And that is the deterrence that we wanted to see happen. We want to make sure that the integrity of the game in the sports betting space is paramount. And the only way you do that is create deterrence for people from violating what used to be a violation in the illegal market where most of the time nobody knew about it. And so I think I think we are working our way through a dynamic where betting on sports has been forever. Betting on sports legally has been a new phenomenon, and it is working. And so making sure that we are focusing on responsibility and making sure that we're focused on the threats to the legal industry, I would say are the two principal focuses for the AGA.
You were talking about gray market or illegal markets. You know, we focused a lot here in this brief discussion on techie sort of stuff, artificial intelligence and so on. But a lot of it is down there in these machines that have proliferated throughout the country that are unregulated. And as an old political reporter, I know that what the legislators would always tell you is that you guys have got to get your act together, because if you're not united, we can't act for you. Mm-hmm. And in gaming, you do have a split between casino operators on one side and slot machine companies on the other in terms of like route operations in states like Illinois.
Yeah, in a couple states.
And a few states. But while the industry has not, and I say the industry, I don't mean the AGA per se, but players within the industry in many states have not necessarily been able to come to a united view of what should be legal and how it should be legislated. These gray machines have been proliferating the whole time. So how are you addressing, or can you address that issue?
Thank you for bringing that point up. I think that, again, I'm approaching my 6th anniversary in this job, and I would say that the AGA was not always active in these fights, in these states, because these fights happen in states, and they require activation, political activation, lobbying activation, grassroots activation, and that is not something that the AGA was previously equipped to do. Today's AGA does and is, and I would cite Virginia as probably the best example of a place where, when the legislative sessions started in Richmond this past year, it was almost a foregone conclusion that skill games in that state were going to be legitimized. And we came in hard. We came in with the collective interests of both the casino operators who had recently begun to break ground on casinos because they had been authorized in the 2020 by the previous governor, and sports betting operators who believed that they had just recently been given this new license to operate in the Commonwealth, and that these individuals who had been operating for years without regulation, without paying taxes, and without any consumer protections, thought that it would be the perfect time this year to become legitimized. And we went directly to the governor, we went directly to the legislature, we went to our friends in communities around the Commonwealth that were going to be affected, and we got a veto out of the governor, and we got a very strong viewpoint that is a negative characterization of these so-called skill games by the Attorney General. We took it to the Supreme Court. We won. We got not only a veto, but a very, very, very harshly worded letter to the legislature from the governor. And so that is not likely going to allow them to come back next session to become legitimized. And so we are going after this fight because for the general public, they have a hard time discerning the difference between a slot machine and a skill game machine, because quite frankly, there is almost no difference. And so if they have no consumer protections, if they have no age verification, if they have no RG components to them, they're going to get lumped in with us, or we're going to get lumped in with them. And so it's really important for us to push back. And so Virginia, big win. Kentucky, big win the year before. Pennsylvania, we've got an amicus brief before the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, so, in essence saying that it is important for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to rule on skill games and rid the Commonwealth of them, because they are not only taking away consumer protections, important state tax revenue, but they're also hurting an industry that employs a lot of people in the state. And so we are heavy, and we are working, and we are succeeding in a place that previously the organization had never been.
Normally I close out the interviews by asking people what they think their company is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. How do you see the gaming industry looking out after, say, another 6 years? It's
always hard to say. When I took this job, it was all about all right, sports betting legalized, Supreme Court rules. Now we got to go and get into these state legislatures and move these bills. And then deal with isn't there too much advertising? Well, no, there's not too much advertising because we're trying to move people from an illegal market where they were betting before to the legal market. And then COVID happens, and then we reopen the industry. And so if I were to sit down, when I probably did when I first took this job, I wouldn't have been able to predict most of the things that happened. And so I probably am not going to be Nostradamus here today and predict what the gaming industry looks like 5 or 6 years from now. But what I will predict is that we will continue to do the right things to make sure that we continue to be a mainstream entertainment option for people. And I think that's what has been a fundamental change in the way our industry is viewed. People look at us as just one more opportunity for them to have fun. And as long as we do the right thing, by way of the customer, by way of the communities in which we operate, that will continue to be the case. And I believe that will be the case. And I think about the numbers today. We've never had a higher popularity among the general public. And we've quite frankly never had as strong support by the policymakers and people in legislatures. And so I think that that's a testament to how we've operated over the last, 30 years. And I think that it is the currency that we will continue to have in the next 6 years.
Okay, great overview, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Always.